All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 5 of the Winston Boys podcast, your favorite thought-provoking philosophical podcast, delivering discussion, commentary, and fun every Sunday afternoon. My name is Kush.
And my name is Alex. And today we have some discussion for you about, for one, what is the end game with COVID? Where do we think this should be going, right? And when is safe enough, right? And also a discussion of some different up and coming topics in technology. All right, Kush, do you want to start off with our COVID segment?
Yes.
All right. So I recently got my COVID vaccine. I work in, I think I've mentioned this before on here, but I work in a lab at the local hospital. And the local hospital was able to vaccinate almost all their employees by now. So I got my first COVID vaccine almost 3 weeks ago. In fact, on Tuesday, it will be exactly 3 weeks ago. So probably like 17 days ago right now. And on this Tuesday, I'll be getting my second vaccine, which means hopefully and the data suggests that within a week or so after that point, I'll be around 95% immune to COVID and pretty much immune to any negative effects of COVID. So I won't be, for instance, the data shows that after you even get your first dose, even if you contract COVID, it'll be very mild and you're much less likely to contract COVID, especially after your second dose. It's a very remote possibility. And I know Kushagra, well, I'll let you talk about.
Yeah. No, I know my grammar, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I was like, I feel like I can pick up on the end of the sentence, but I didn't want to like hop in, so I was like, let's wait for
now is the hour.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, like I know. So Alex got vaccinated. Obviously, he could talk a lot more about that. I personally didn't get vaccinated. I mean, I got a flu shot. I don't have the mandate anymore. I got a flu shot like 3 days ago.
Did you have it required for school? Was it required for school?
I just went for my physical.
Gotcha.
I think what Alex was talking about is my grandma also got her first dose of, I think, the Pfizer vaccine. So that's my involvement with the COVID vaccine.
No, I'm sorry. Is this the grandmother that lives in India, or is no?
No, she's visiting us right now.
Oh, she's still with you. Okay, I didn't know. Okay, cool. Yeah, I was gonna say it'd be interesting if I didn't know where India was, so it'd been interesting if she was there. But I'm sure you don't know.
They're vaccinating doctors, I'm pretty sure.
Are they really? That's really good. That's really good.
I honestly have no idea.
I have no idea either.
Speculating.
Yeah, it would. Okay. Anyway, I would have been happy if she'd been in India getting vaccinated, because that would mean they were like at the same point, right? And it's not just like, capitalistic vaccines go to the highest bidder first stuff going on, but who knows? Yeah. Anyway, so basically my experience with the vaccine, they had a clinic where they were offering the vaccine student who's qualified to get one. And there was a clinic up in Wilkesboro, so I drove all the way to Wilkes County. I don't know, something like that. Wilkes County Medical Center or something. So I drove like an hour and a half up there and got my vaccine. Waited in line for about an hour, got my vaccine. You have to sit when you get it. There's a higher than normal for vaccines, but still very low, of course, but significantly higher than the normal flu shot, at least. Rate of people having severe allergic reactions to this vaccine. And so they are monitoring everyone for, I think it was 20 minutes for me to make sure you don't have a reaction to the vaccine, an allergic reaction. So I sat in a room with a bunch of other people. Everyone had masks on. It was as spread out as we could. It was a little bit more crowded than I would have liked, but they were trying to get everyone vaccinated, in a reasonable amount of time. So everyone was spread out as they could be and 6 feet apart with masks on. And we all just sat there until our timer beeped after 20 minutes and no one had a reaction or anything. It was probably like 50 people in there. And we all just walked out when we were done as soon as the timer beeped. So it was really chill, really mundane. And all at the same time, it was kind of a weird feeling, right? Because this is kind of like the moment we've all been waiting for the last, how long is it now? Almost a year, right?
Yeah.
I've been, waiting for this for 10 months, right?
Yeah.
It feels like a huge milestone. And of course, I know I'm not safe and it's not over, but it feels like a reprieve, right? Also a huge burden, a huge relief, because I know now, well, I'm a lot less likely to bring COVID home from my lab, right, to my family, which wouldn't be good. So anyway, I did develop some slight body aches the next day, and I was a little bit tired, but I mean, by evening, that's a good thing, right? Like when you have an immune response like that to a vaccine, that means your body has like noticed the vaccine is there and is like producing antibodies and revving up its immune response, which is a good thing because it means the vaccine's doing exactly what it should be doing, right? So I kind of took it as a very positive thing that I felt a little bit under the weather the next day. And I didn't have any like symptoms. It wasn't unpleasant. It was just felt a little bit tired, like maybe I was coming down with something. And then instead of coming down with something, I just felt better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so anyway, by the end of that day, I was feeling back to my normal self. And that was pretty much it.
Nice.
Did you have any questions?
Did I about the vaccine?
Yeah, or anything.
I don't know.
Anything else?
What's it like being microchipped by the government?
Oh Lord. Yeah, I mean, dude, something I've never understood about that conspiracy theory is like, if government wanted to microchip us, right? I mean, they already have. They have your phone data. They literally have a microphone attached to your hip at all times, and your GPS coordinates if they want them, right? Yeah. And there's plenty of precedent for your phone carriers and whoever else for, giving that whatever data the government wants to the government. If you're a terrorist suspect or something, right? And the government's going to have access to any cell phone data they want. So, I mean, I don't know what the fears are of vaccine microchipping conspiracy theorists, right?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you don't know. I mean, it might be. I mean, I haven't really studied them, but maybe like brain control. Like, I don't know if that's a thing. No, you work in a lab, right? Like, you control like rats' brains. You make them addicted without giving them heroin.
Oh, no. That's not, no. For one, we don't work with heroin.
Yeah.
I actually haven't worked with cocaine myself, but the lab works with cocaine. And well, the difference there is the way that you stimulate those things is not via an injection or something else, but it's literally you drill a hole in their skull and insert a little tiny wire that shocks that part of the brain in a way that feels good to the rat. Now, it's not brain control. It just gives some sort of pleasure. So, for instance, that takes me running it on the other end, right? Like clicking the button. If the rat does something or the rat presses the lever, right? If the rat presses the lever, then I click the button and it gets a pleasurable stimuli in its brain, right? But that's a far cry from mind control, right? Very far cry from mind control. And that's not from a dose or anything else. So as long as no one's drilled a hole into your skull and is giving you electrical shocks in your brain, I can be relatively sure that, at least with my understanding of current neuroscience, right? There's no way to give you anything resembling mind control at all. I think the far more effective way of mind control is propaganda and the like, right?
Yeah.
Or online conspiracy groups.
Yeah.
Facebook.
Also, I checked. I did a Google search. So India is vaccinated against COVID. It has started now.
Oh, well, that's really good.
Just confirmed that.
I'm really glad to hear. I have been concerned because, countries like India and the like, right, where the average purchasing power, right, is just much lower than countries like America and a lot of European countries. And also, right, the power they have on a global stage, per se, right? America just tends to be more influential in international politics, right? So it becomes a question of, who gets the vaccine first. And it's concerning to me that it might be, predominantly white industrialized nations kind of taking precedent over other populations, right? It's not necessarily a good thing. However, in India's defense, I guess they have the benefit of a relatively youthful population,
I mean, someone made a map. Here, let me see if I can find it.
Because if I remember right, India's demographics are pretty bottom heavy, right? There's a lot of population growth, especially Bangladesh and Pakistan. I know those aren't really India, but you know what I mean? Yeah. That area. And India, I think, is the same sort of way. Let's hang on.
Yeah.
Population.
Can you also look up like
Age.
when will people get COVID by map? Because someone made a map where it's like it's color coded, and it shows you like the estimates of when the last people in each country are gonna get COVID by. And I remember I saw the map, and it was like Africa like was all like red, like they were all those countries were getting it last, and then North America and Europe and like some of the South and Southeast Asian countries were more green, which meant they were getting it before.
Well, unfortunately, oh no, I can't find it.
That's okay. Just wondering.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, something good that Africa has going for it. Africa's probably going to have the lowest fatality rate from COVID per person infected.
Wait, why do you say that?
Because they're all young. Go look at I can't remember what kind. Do you remember what kind of chart that was? It's like this population charts. That's like it like usually small at the top, and then for America, it like balloons out. Like there's a lot of people aged 55 to 75.
Dude, I
and then there's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't find it
in Human Geo.
Yeah, I know it's Human Geo.
I'm sorry, Miss Russ, if you're watching.
We failed our Human Geo teachers.
Paid more attention in your class.
Yeah, dude. I used to remember it.
I think age. Look up Africa demographics.
There we go. Age distribution chart.
Let's
do age. Age distribution chart.
Right?
India.
Like
India's going to be very. India is going to be fat at the bottom, right? Because India's population is growing relatively rapidly, right? And the same thing for Africa, which means that most people who get sick aren't going to be, right? I mean, the critical age is kind of 65 and above, right? Where you start having a pretty decently high death rate, right? Everyone below that's pretty low, like less than 1%. And so, I mean, look at India's chart here. It's like almost everyone's below 65, right? I mean, for one, India doesn't have I think I just saw a statistic on Wiki that was the average life expectancy is like 66 years, right? So you're not having a whole lot of people live older than that old, right? To where COVID becomes a real issue. And then, I mean, not that it's not a real issue, but it's much less of an issue, right? For people under 65. And then, the vast bulk of the population is so much younger than that I think that India won't be in terrible shape for that, right? Now look up, for instance, Nigeria, right? Or something, right? Right. And I mean, Nigeria is even more extreme, where it's not like this sort of thing. It's more like right? Like the bottom of the chart for Nigeria, or I don't know, what's another relatively Chad, places like that, for instance, Chad, right? So, so I think it's kind of interesting. So for instance, Chad here, right? They probably have only 0.3%, 0.5%. So probably about 1% of the population is over 65, right? Maybe less. Mm-hmm. About 1%, it looks like. That's just not very much. And so they're going to have a really low death rate. Now, the other thing is, it seems that I'm just hypothesizing here, but maybe people from Africa would probably have been exposed to a lot more pathogens, right? Especially if you're living in rural Africa. Okay, of course, I know there are urbanized areas, but I think the majority of Africa lives in a relatively rural setting compared to more industrialized nations. And so these people are going to have a lot of exposure to a lot of different pathogens. And it may even be that, for instance, right, you're going to end up with other diseases, for instance, every year, like different epidemics damage Africa, right, and kill a certain percentage of the population as it is. It may be that COVID, because, right, it may be one of the less problematic epidemics for many African countries this year, if that makes sense, right? Because they have things like yellow fever and malaria that already kill hundreds of thousands to millions of people a year, right? I read a statistic that a couple million kids in Africa die of diarrhea every year, which is horrific, right? But all of a sudden, COVID just doesn't seem that bad, right? When you're juxtaposing it with these very fatal, when they're left untreated, which they often are in these situations, right? Diseases. So it's kind of interesting that's why I think Africa isn't having a problem, because, overall, because one, Africa's got bigger fish to fry, and two, Africa's relatively youthful, right?
Yeah. No, I think that's an interesting point.
Yeah.
But I know another thing that we were gonna talk about, right, was the like at what point can we be over?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, that's the question we're all waiting to hear the answer to. What do you think, Kush? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, actually, it's actually interesting because I'm like a super genius, so I have the answer to every question, and so
That's why you're here.
yeah. No, I'm just kidding. I'm in the same boat as you and everyone else. Like, I mean, I don't really know like when the hard set point is that it's over, and I think that's really just because like I don't know. I mean, do you think that in terms of like we'd be able to define it in terms of herd immunity, like when we reach herd immunity, and like do we know like when that happens?
I think we'll know when we reach herd immunity because the COVID virus cases will kind of go.
Yeah. Is there a way to calculate that though? Like, is it known?
Well, I know that herd immunity is like dependent on the transmissibility rate, right? In the population. And the transmissibility rate in the population depends on how many people gather and such, right? So if we all come over to my place and party, right, and one of us has COVID and there's 50 people over here, it's a wild party. Okay, I'm so popular. I have my 50 closest friends over.
I don't know
and
if I have those, so
I know, I'm just joking. But let's just say for some reason 50 people decided it was a great idea to come over to my house and party, okay? And we all got COVID because Kush, of course, you know, he got it from one of his 12 girlfriends and, you know, sneezed on everyone. And
that not happened to you?
Yeah, come on, Kush. So anyway, yeah, and so we all get COVID. Well, all of a sudden our transmissibility rate's 50, right? Like, so it depends on how people act, right? If everyone's like hanging out in the stadium, obviously, you know, and going to football games, and that's what we all do with our free time, the transmissibility rate for COVID is going to be maybe closer to 3 or 4 instead of 2.5, which is about where it seems to be right now, right? And also the new strand, right, that is supposed to become dominant by March, right? It just came in from England.
Oh yeah,
and
what is
you know,
going on with that? Like what? Like is that? Does a vaccine protect you against that strain?
Yes, yes, it does. Okay. Yes, it protects you. That seems to be the consensus. And if it doesn't protect you fully, it protects you enough that you won't die. People who die of COVID basically die of COVID because their body like thinks they're being invaded by a fungus and tries to fight the fungus, which doesn't work. That's like the long and the short of it, honestly. Like literally, people who have severe COVID, the vast majority of them are responding to the virus with like antifungal agents, like antifungal cells instead of antiviral cells. And that's why it gets so out of hand. And then their body like flips out and basically destroys itself trying to beat the virus. It's not usually the virus that gets you. It's your body ripping out your endothelial tissue in your lungs, which isn't good.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I watched CNN at the beginning of the pandemic, so I'm an expert on what.
Yeah. I read a couple New York Times articles.
Yeah.
And I've taken way more bio than I'm ever gonna need.
Yeah, I was about to say the only bio I took was in high school, so I really I hear all this stuff and I'm just like, yeah, I wish I got what that meant, but
I haven't had that much more bio than you, except the lab I've been working in, where I've had to like read bio papers and not know what they're talking about. And now at least I like hear the terms. Yeah, exactly. Me and my, I am part of Big Brother. Yeah. Look at me. Ooh.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I think, so I think that the question here is, right, at what point is it, say, you know, there's a certain point where we have to say, look, there's risk to going outside and interacting, right? And there's risk to going out to eat or anything else, right? But with any risk, right? If I were so risk adverse that I never did anything that was dangerous, right? I'd never leave my house. I might not even go down the stairs, okay? I could trip and die and go down the stairs, right? Now, I'm not trying to trivialize the risk of COVID, and I'm not saying that we're doing the wrong thing right now at all. Like, that's not the point. And then to all our viewers, right? This is not the point of the video. I'm not saying we should go out and do whatever we want to right now. In fact, I'm very much against that. What I am saying is that at a certain point, we're going to reach a time when it's appropriate to start, when the risk becomes smaller because a lot of people are vaccinated, and maybe we can start interacting in a more normal way. And I think that's kind of, I don't know. What kind of metric do you think we could use for that? Because you're kind of a metric kind of guy. What do you think?
I don't know. I'm trying to, I don't know. I mean, I will say this. I have an unrelated, very like ADHD side note on COVID that's slightly separate from this. Like, I know a lot of like people throughout the whole pandemic, they've been like talking about like, I guess now it's become politicized, so it's like one side. They've been talking about how there's like a 99% survival rate, and that's why it's not important. But if you run the numbers on like a 1% death rate on even like 70% of the US, it's like 2.6 million people or something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
that's like if you took like the metro population of Austin, Texas, right? And you just rained down like nukes on the entire metro area of Austin, Texas. That's the equivalent. So I was I was listening to like Dave Ramsey, who like he like out of all the financial people I like listening to, like I just listen to him because he's like the most like he's not producing any like, I mean the number of multimillionaires he's producing has to be small. Like he's like the most like not politically conservative, but like most conservative advice giving financial guy. And I just remember like he's kind of like a grandpa, and like he was talking about the whole like 99% survivability rate thing on his like YouTube channel. I was just like, Dave, like what are you doing? Like, you know how many people listen to this radio show?
Yeah, and that's the 99%. Whoa, do we have an earthquake? Okay. Oh, you just hit your camera. I was like, oh my God.
The whole desk.
Because she's having an earthquake. I honestly thought you were having an earthquake, dude. I was like, oh shoot, is it going to hit here? Yeah, I mean, like, no, I mean, people say 1%. For one, it wouldn't be 1%. Right now it's 1% because our hospitals can do their jobs, right? It would be a few percent higher than that, to be honest with you. And that's the problem, right? Is that's why you want to that's why you want to flatten the curve. It's not even necessarily, let's say that we found out a month ago that no vaccine would work against this thing and we were all just going to have to get herd immunity. There would be an even stronger case for suppressing the virus and going through it slowly, even though we'd all have to get it eventually. And the reason for that is, right, if everyone gets it all at once and we all just, hey, party at Alex's house, let's all get COVID, woo, we all have to get it anyway, right? Like, that wouldn't work. Well, because maybe I have severe COVID. I know. Like, let's say I get COVID and maybe I'm having a hard time with it. Okay. And I can't really breathe right. But if I went to the hospital, I'd be fine. They'd put me on a respirator for a few days and I'd get better. But if there's no hospital, there's no respirator, I just die in bed. I'm a healthy young man, right? Like, and that's severe COVID patients, anyone with severe COVID who has to go to the hospital to be treated would just die. And that's a way bigger percent than just 1%. 1% is because of all the medical professionals doing what they do. And people listening to them and not getting so many people sick that the hospitals can't do what they need to do, right? When they have so many hospital beds and so many respirators.
Isn't this what was happening in Italy like about a year ago? Like, isn't this the...
Yeah. And I mean, that's where we're at right now, too.
I don't even know.
Yeah. I mean, people don't realize, but we're by far at the highest COVID level right now. But yeah, so I mean, I think that certainly there's a certain death rate, right? Where once we get down to flu levels of mortality, for instance, let's say, I don't know, maybe everyone over 40 has been vaccinated, and frontline workers have been vaccinated. I think it would be appropriate to say, maybe we can start talking about, what does the data say about going back to a somewhat more normal lifestyle, right? Where maybe we don't all go to the stadium and watch a basketball game, but we can maybe go to a movie and be careful, right? And sit 6 feet apart and maybe not have to wear masks or something, I don't know how the data would work out, but I think that, certainly the end is in sight, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, do you think that, I mean, obviously, like, we're young guys, so, like, for us, like when you're not at home, like, us hanging out isn't, like, a big deal.
Well, especially now that I've been vaccinated.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm thinking, like, in terms of everything going back the way it was, like, people will have, like, old grandparents at home, people will have like at-risk people at home. Like, in terms of like all of those people going back to doing the exact same stuff that they were doing, do you think that it's like reasonable that would happen by like September of this year?
I would say yes, especially the grandparents' part.
So,
well, I don't know. I mean, think about your grandparents, your grandmother lives with you, right? It lives with your parents, right? Yeah. So, I mean, your dad has to go to work, right? He can't just stop going into work.
Yeah, he still is, but
he's at work. Yeah. So, I think that, I mean, it's family, right?
Yeah.
And your grandmother, I'm sure, was aware of the risks, right? And she chose to come. Family is very important, right? I see my grandfather, I'm working at the hospital, and yeah, I've been vaccinated. I'm very careful around him, right? I usually wear a mask and such, but it's family. There's a very strong drive to interact with your family, and it's actually not that risky, right? Because it's a small number of people. It's not like you're going to party with your 50 closest buds, right? Or going to a restaurant or a bar or something, right? I think that's much more risky. But small family gatherings, grandparents coming over, that's going to be one of the first things to come back because all the grandparents are going to be vaccinated first, right? Have you checked out the COVID priority stuff for NC?
Like, did the governor put something out?
Yeah, so like they have like a list of like how it's going to go.
I haven't seen it. I haven't been watching local news or anything like that.
So basically, it's like 65 and up. And then frontline medical personnel, essential medical personnel, especially at old age homes, and they've all gotten vaccinated. And then old age homes, and people in other like really vulnerable, like old age living communities, assisted living, whatever you want to call it, the whole spectrum. And then students, frontline personnel. I think I already said that. I don't know. Frontline personnel, students, everyone else. Right, so everyone over 65 is getting it. My grandfather has his
when you say
vaccination date.
Sorry.
I mean university students. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to ask, did you mean like elementary, middle school students, or do you mean like high school and college students?
I don't know, man. That's a good question. I don't know why they'd be vaccinating elementary, middle school students since they're already immune.
The reason I was saying, they're immune?
They don't show symptoms ever, or very, very rarely.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I saw something on the national news where it was like, what the fuck is national news? I saw something on CNN where, like they were talking about how like the priorities were to get the elementary, middle schools open first, because like that's where all the people who have baby. Who would need to have someone look after their kids, like all those kids are in elementary, middle school.
Yeah.
They're talking about when we get those open, then more people can go back to work because they don't have to like watch their kids, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And to be honest with you, I've been about this the whole time. I personally do not, I think it was very wrong to close elementary and middle school to in-need children at the beginning of this pandemic. I think that those should have stayed open. I think they should have been up to the parents, but elementary and middle school just never should have closed, in my opinion, because when you do that, right, what you're saying is, okay, kids, right, we're going to protect people over 65 at, first of all, the expense of your education, because if you're not need child, right, you're an need child, your parents are working all day, right? Maybe English isn't your first language, right? None of that's your fault. None of that's a bad thing about you. And you're not going to be able to learn. Maybe you don't have internet access, right? Maybe imagine you're a kid who's really, socioeconomically disadvantaged, right? And your parents aren't around to help you with schoolwork. And like I said, you may not have the required technology. What are you going to do? How can someone from, the neighborhoods around where we used to go to school at Haynes, right? Those are very poor places, poor neighborhoods, right?
Yeah.
And
everything east of Highway 52 in Winston is
it's generally kind of a gentrified and primarily poor minority area, and those people are the ones who are hit the hardest, right? And I think it's not to make this necessarily a racial thing, but I think it's a little bit of wealth privilege and white privilege in a sense that the needs of a lot of these minority children and children who don't speak English first. And of course, this is for any immigrant family, right? Any English isn't your first language, or your parents for whatever reason aren't able to help you with your schoolwork as an elementary schooler or a middle schooler, you're just not getting the support you need at home. How are you supposed to learn? You're not 15 and can take responsibility for yourself. You're 8. No one can take responsibility for themselves at 8. So that's like I said, those never should have been closed.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know.
I think that's an interesting point. I like, yeah. Now that you say that, I definitely agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah. Actually, on another unrelated note, I know like earlier, like I mentioned my grandma and like how she's here. Actually, I think that's also like an interesting situation, because I'm sure there's other people out there who were in the same kind of boat, where like she was actually initially supposed to leave like I think June or something like that of like last year, and then COVID hit, and like we were kind of like, okay, no way. But actually, like at that time, like I know that there were like a lot of people in that situation, so they're actually giving out like visa extensions like left and right for like people who were like visiting, like couldn't go back to their countries. So that, I think like that's, I mean, I was gonna throw it out there in case anyone found that interesting. Like I think that was like a pretty common thing that happened throughout the whole country, where like people came in and then they got stuck because of the virus. But now it's a lot easier to travel and stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't blame her at all for not. I mean, I wouldn't want to fly to India right now, and I've been vaccinated and I'm healthy, right? Like,
yeah.
But
especially if you're 80, like 82.
Well, of course, like that's way worse. But I mean, I'm just saying, even as me, right? Like having had one vaccine and being young and healthy, I would not feel comfortable right now getting on a flight with a bunch of people, right? And there's no way I'm going to be able to wear a mask for however many hours straight. Like, there's no way, dude. It would get too itchy. I'd rather, you know what I mean? Like, there's no way everyone on that flight's going to keep their mask on, and I probably wouldn't either. It's just too hard for that many hours, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't blame your grandmother at all, and that's just a rough situation. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's interesting you say that. I was at the doctor's office a couple of days ago, and like I don't know what was going on, if it was a busy day, if it was because I was a new patient there or whatever, but like the full duration of me being there was like an hour and a half for like literally like maybe like a 10-15 minute like physical, or however long it takes. And so like I remember like wearing a mask that whole time was like the most uncomfortable thing. Like I don't think I've worn a mask for an hour and a half at any point.
Really?
Pandemic. Yeah.
Well, that's because you've been on virtual school, right? I've gotten pretty used to it. But like, I have to wear a mask for 3 or 4 hours, right? Because I'm going between different in-person classes, right? And it's like, like,
yeah. What is that experience like?
I mean, your face gets itchy. Oh, I mean, everyone sits 6 feet apart with a mask on. Yeah. And that's about it. You just don't take your mask off. If you do, the professor yells at you and then kicks you out of class. There was some kid, and I think I'm not trying to call this kid out, because I think it may have been because he has like a learning disability that he kept taking his mask off. But like he kept taking his mask off, and he eventually was like told he couldn't come back to class because he kept taking it down. Right. Yeah. And so nice guy, really, really, I always enjoy talking to him, but he, like they were like, man, like we can't let you come to class. Right. Like whatever the reason is, no way, but you just, so it's been very much safety first, at Wake. And, so yeah, I mean, I think that maybe it's a little bit more feasible at a school like Wake than it is at Chapel Hill too, right? Because we have the average class size is like 20 or 15 or 20 or something, right? Instead of, I don't know, but I've heard tale of some pretty big classes at NC State and UNC.
Yeah, I have classes, or before the pandemic hit, actually no, even like last semester, I've had usually at least one class a semester. It's like 400, like 20 something people.
That is insane, dude. My God, my freshman chem class was like 35 or 40 people, and that was it. We had a little auditorium. But yeah, that's the other thing. We've been having a lot of classes in auditoriums. In my physics class, I mean, it's quantum physics, so it's not a lot of people signed up. we were in a pretty large room and only 10 people were allowed to attend at once because that's all we could fit. And there were probably like 12 people in the class, so it didn't really matter. And a lot of people ended up not being on campus anyway. So I don't think anyone was ever told like, you can't come to class, because there was always someone not showing up for whatever reason. So, and a lot of people just gave up and got lazy from walking to class and just decided to watch on Zoom. So
yeah,
I don't know.
That's my mentality right there.
That's what Caleb did. You know, Caleb, that's what he did the whole semester. Is he just like, after like walking a couple times, he's like, nah, you go ahead. I'm just going to watch on Zoom. And I was like, I can't read his handwriting on Zoom. And it's hard to read in person, but I'm going to try.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. The professor had really bad handwriting.
No.
Yeah. Anyway, so we wanted to talk about also, right. What was it? Kind of something, an ethical dilemma, right? With kind of the coming of the possible coming of immortality and perhaps digital immortality and stuff like that, right? So I know you're the comp sci guy, right? Oh, you, I'm not catching you off guard. I'm sorry. So maybe, what kind of, yeah, you're the comp sci guy. This is your specialty here. So now I get to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you asked me all these bio questions. I'm not even a bio major. I'm just like pulling stuff out of my ass.
Yeah.
I have bio background, but,
yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you think about, am I going to be able to upload my brain to, I don't know, Google Mind or something in 20 years and live forever on there? How feasible do you think that is from a comp sci perspective?
Yeah. Honestly, that's such a massive question that I'm thinking of words I can say right now to fill in the space of me thinking about how I want to answer it. So that's kind of what I just did. Okay, so like, have you heard of like Neuralink by like Elon, like Elon Musk, like his new company?
I think I've read about it like once. Yeah, go ahead and tell me because I don't remember much.
The thing, so when it launches, it's going to be a device and it's going to be aimed at like correcting some of these like really small like mental like diseases or I don't know what you'd call them. But like it's like I can't think of any examples, but it's basically going to be aimed at correcting those minor little like disabilities, and it's a device that like plugs into the back of someone's head, and basically like they do a surgery where they put like something, like they drill into your skull and they have like a little thing and it has these wires that go to different parts of your brain, and then the Neuralink plugs into the thing. And so it's initially going to be for these diseases, but Elon Musk was talking about it on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he was talking about how what his vision is for it is that this will be the future of communication. And so he was talking about how like today, like we use words and sounds and like written language to communicate, but he was like, our thoughts are so complex. Like there's so much data in a thought. Like you're imagining different pictures as you say it. You're looking at things in a particular way. You might be thinking about what all the directions are that you could be taking this thought as it comes out of your mouth. And the thing is, or as it is like in your head. And like the thing is that like compressing all that down into words and then sending that those compressed words to someone else and then expecting they're going to be able to decompress them into a similar thought. Like, I mean, it's like there's just a lot of data lost in that process. So I know, like, I was mentioning this because I think it's kind of interesting and it's kind of relevant to what you're asking. Is like his vision for the future is that we're all gonna have these Neuralink devices, and rather than communicating with words and sounds and stuff, we're gonna be able to communicate our thoughts in a new way through these Neuralink devices to each other. So I don't know where that falls in the philosophy space, but I was gonna put it out there, see what you thought.
Yeah, that's scary. I wouldn't want one.
Yeah.
That's a lot to unpack.
Man, we're gonna be like the grandpa. Like, Grandpa, why don't you have a Neuralink? I don't trust those goddamn.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. I mean, for one, you ain't drilling nothing into my skull, for one, unless I really need it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm all in favor of doing things to help out with whatever mental dysfunction is going on in these patients, and that's awesome that they might be able to do something about that. But unless I'm having some sort of severe disability. I've heard of, for instance, of people with what's that, Parkinson's disease, right? Where there's a video I watched for one of my classes this year, actually, where the guy has a bunch of really deep electrodes in his brain, and they just give out like an electrical signal, kind of like what I do with my rats, actually, almost the exact same thing. Where it's an electrical stimulation.
Clarify, not your personal rats, the rats in your laboratory.
The rats in my laboratory. I do not have any rats, and I would not know. It's all supervised by an IACUC, which is like the Institutional Ethics Committee for Animal Care and Use and whatever. So it's all very much overseen, and everything's very humanely done. But yeah, no. So that's what the. Yeah. I'm not like some mad scientist like, yeah, torturing rats in my basement.
Sounded like
no.
Like you had like rats in your basement.
I do not have
my rats.
Personally, my rats are really having a hell of a time.
Yeah.
No. We crank it all the way up to 11. They're getting the strongest shocks, the most dopamine. No, but seriously, so people with Parkinson's have a lack of dopamine in their brain. And so these they have these deep electrical stimulation electrodes in your brain, in these people's brains that like they have like a device that they turn on, like they have a little remote, and it stimulates that area and produces dopamine, which corrects for the dopamine imbalance and makes it so their Parkinson's disease like symptoms are very, very reduced to almost nothing, right? So I watched a video of a guy who kind of started off like this, right? And he turned it off, and he very quickly progressed to the point where he could barely hold he was really having I just wanted to demonstrate. He was having a very, very hard time holding onto the remote, and he had to turn it back on. He said it would have continued to get worse over the next few minutes, and he'd only had it like that for about a minute maybe. But he was afraid he was going to drop the remote because he was losing so much motor function. So he turned it back on. He said, as you can see, this is a very serious disorder, and this thing really helps. So I'm really in favor of stuff like that. But I mean, for one, that's just, I don't want to communicate with my thoughts.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So it's funny too, the way he described it. Like I remember Joe Rogan was asking him, he was like, so what do you think will happen to like conversations? He's like, human beings will still be able to produce words and stuff, right? And he was like, well, like, he's like, what happened to campfires? He's like, we used to use them to like cook animals and give us warmth and stuff, right? But he's like, now we just sit around them and tell stories for fun. So he's like, who doesn't like campfires? But like, it's like, how practical are campfires now with all the stoves and all the stuff we have? Like,
really practical if all you've got is wood and a lighter. That's how practical.
But like, in terms of like, if you have to cook, you have your kitchen. If you want heat, you have an HVAC unit. So like, what do you like
No, not in your house. No.
Exactly. So it's like humans have like surpassed the need for campfires or for fire, like I guess bonfire.
I wouldn't say an objection there. I would say that campfires are just as useful as they ever have been. We just have other alternatives that are better. It's not that a campfire is any worse. And I've cooked on plenty of campfires. In fact, I used to take a road trip across the USA with my parents every year. We don't really do it anymore because I'm in college and busy in the summers. But we would take a full 3 weeks to 4 week road trip in the old family van and just camping. Really economical way to travel, really, because you just pay like $20 a night for the campfire or for the campsite and buy groceries, So it's really like, if you want to take like a 3 week vacation and don't have the money for it, go camp out of the back of your van. It's a time. We've driven out to Colorado and did it. It's awesome. But it's like, campfires work fine for a lot of stuff, and they keep you warm and they cook fine. It's just that we have better alternatives now. Now I'm going to object and say that comparing words to HVAC is very unfair because, this device to HVAC and words to campfire is very unfair because I don't think that this device would provide a better alternative to words. I just totally disagree with that premise because for one,
I was just gonna ask why. But I know you're already saying that. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. Well, I think for one, I mean, my thoughts are, I think probably the most private thing about any person is their thoughts, right? and any given person, right, has thoughts that are totally wild and bordering on insane from time to time, right? And also thoughts that are very normal and very logical, right? And thoughts that are total non sequiturs, right? I'm walking along and thinking about, the squirrel up in the tree, and then SpaceX mission that I heard about, and then, I can't wait to see my girlfriend in a couple weeks, and then, I don't know, maybe I watched last night. Okay, like there's a lot of, a lot of stuff in there that words give you a filter, right? That's why you say someone who says things they shouldn't say has no filter, right? It just, you're thinking and it comes out. Well, it's not good, right? People frown on that sort of thing. Having a device that just linked right into your brain, right? You would end up sending things, maybe you're having a tense moment with your father or your girlfriend or whoever, right? Maybe I'm arguing with my girlfriend, and, in the back of my mind, I think, fuck you, you're full of shit. But I'm not going to say that, because I'm respectful and I love her and I think we can reach a better agreement than me just saying, oh, fuck off. I don't, you're a bad person, right? But in the back of my mind, maybe I think, fuck off. You're just wrong. But she doesn't hear that, right? And so it doesn't really count. It's not like I've done something wrong by thinking that, you know what I mean? And I think that removing that barrier is not a good thing, right? I think that the privacy of thoughts is something that should not ever be removed, if it makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah. I think more so like what he's talking about is like a new way to communicate. So probably not something that we could compare anything we have today to, or like but I think, yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying. Like, if it was just a device that, like, you, like, now have no control over your thoughts and they just sprawl out, like, that's, obviously that's not good. But I think what he's talking about is, like, more so, like, a more efficient way of taking data from my head and putting it in your head. But...
Well, I want to know who's going to do AdSense on that data. And if I think about blue sneakers, am I going to see blue sneakers everywhere I go?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking in future.
Hang on, Kush, I can't see you. I've got an ad right here for blue sneakers. God damn it.
Yeah, but I will say, yeah, no, I think that was a good. I hadn't thought about what you just said about, like, I was gonna just interject and say we're over 45 minutes now, so.
Are we really?
A good place to wrap things up.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
All right. Do you wanna do the same outro as last time? I guess we haven't scripted it, but
I don't think we even scripted it. Did we?
Yeah.
What is our? I don't know.
Do you want to say bye and then I'll say the thing about like the like button and then we'll just call it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. Maybe we'll pick this one up next time because I think it's still got a lot of room to grow here. But thanks for listening, and yeah.
And what is I don't know. What do you think this week's heavy object should be that people have laying around?
Take that old box TV. Like the plasma or whatever it is.
So,
take your old box TV that you've got in your garage or whatever.
Yeah. So go find your old box TV, like Alex is saying, and take it and absolutely smash the living shit out of the like button, and make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on all your favorite Winston Boys podcast episodes. And next week we'll probably have a scripted outro for you too.
Yeah, that would be something, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
All right.
So
Bye-bye.
next week.